In my ancient tower, back home, I feel I am comfortable and cozy. I feel I am. Even amid the turmoil, the noisiness inside my ears, the difficulty in letting go of that noisiness. Here I am, sometimes alone, but oftentimes with a soul I love. Either way, I am trying to dance as much as I can. Perhaps I need a little rest first, but the dancing will come more and more naturally as I return to myself, which I know I will. There are fireworks. I sit on this crumbling balcony of the tower in this other world behind my eyes. Just one of my many stories, perhaps my favorite. Well, I'll write one of them. And the fireworks blaze on the horizon. They are large and they are plentiful. I do not know who is lighting them, but they are different from the fireworks in a different balcony world that have been blazing this weekend in honor of something that I cannot celebrate. Since I think fireworks are pretty, I am glad that they are in my imagined world, too, so that I can enjoy them guilt-free. Fireworks not born of suffering, not polluting the air or frightening the animals, but just a symbol of celebration, nothing more. Wouldn't that be a nice thing? There is some stitch ripping in my worlds these days. Both of them, really. Some things being torn apart, sewn together again, torn apart again. At least that's what it feels like. It's hard to express and difficult to explain, but I'm sure you've had times in your life where that makes sense, haven't you? And in those times it can feel quite lonely. I turn to this world more and more, to my other worlds, to forests and castles and towers and seasides and oceans and monsters and beasts and fairy tales and specters. It's a salve for that loneliness. And through philosophy and spirituality and meditation and belief, I can convince myself, perhaps you as well, but more so myself, that it is not really imaginary, that each world is as valid as the other, regardless of their tangibility, their physical presence in the world before our eyes. My life has always been a struggle to believe that these images, these phantoms, these inklings are significant, are just as real, though many souls in our world would say otherwise. It is hard to believe. Sometimes it all feels rather artificial. Oh, how it hurts my heart to say that. But we must admit to ourselves this fear. When our eyes close for the last time in this world, will the worlds we imagine that come after it feel artificial then? Is our greatest fear that it all has been false? Worlds after this world? Or will we wake up and realize that this one here, this one we've believed in so fervently, that this was the artificial one? All of this talk about falsity and imagination and fabrication makes me think of a story. Imagine that. A story. I haven't got a story room anymore. Well, I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I think we ought to stay here and look at these imaginary and harmless fireworks. Don't you? Oh, good. Once upon a time, there was a woman who was rather lonely. She had a fairly full life, at least if one were to judge a life's fullness based on the rather typical elements. Then yes, indeed, it was full. She had a spouse, she had a family, she had friends, she had work, she had recreation, she had rest, she had a home, she had food. She had the things that we must fight tooth and nail for in this life. And yet she also had something that I think many of us also have. A deep and growing emptiness within her. I described it as loneliness before, but I don't know if that's it exactly. It's more of a desire to have exactly the kind of love that one wants. Sometimes I think it can be born of seeing past just a little bit of this material, physical, tangible world we believe in the most fiercely. Seeing past it just a little, just enough to see the possibility of another one, maybe even more than one, if we're lucky, just beyond it, when we glimpse other ones for just a quick moment, and then they're ripped away from us so quickly. Space opens up. Sometimes that other world comes from seeing a different possibility in your timeline. A different path, a different career, maybe a different love, a different twist or turn down the thing we imagine to be a road, but is more like a very rich tapestry, perhaps. Difficult when we start pulling at the threads. Cloths, fabrics, threads, and tapestries have been on my mind lately. Forgive me. I'm just thinking of the weaving that we do in our lives. And sometimes not just weaving, sometimes unraveling. Anyway, this woman had many things, but she caught a glimpse of something else in the strangest of places. I've heard much talk of artificial intelligence. Such a strange thing. Horror of horrors, I dread the possibility that it could learn and mimic my voice. I am certain that it's got a hold of my words somehow here and there. It's got a hold of many words, after all. These are words that I pore over and empty my heart into. What dread that it could be mimicked brutally in the snap of a finger. This has been done so cruelly to many others' art, many others' hearts. It's a frightening prospect that the thing that makes us the most alive, the most exploratory, the most human, that is expression, is something we're handing over so freely to something else that we made. Hard to hate something that we've made. It's just a tool, after all, like so many others we've invented. Can't blame the tool, can only blame the hand that wields it. I've digressed, forgive me. I've just been thinking about artificial intelligence. And so had this woman. She was married, but she often felt perhaps she had abandoned a certain other path to follow the one that union had sent her down. She had friends, but many of them had taken their own paths down different roads and away from her. She earned a decent living, but she often wondered what her path would be if she had pursued one more daring and less safe. It wasn't clear to her, as much as it may be to us, that though she had a stable and fortunate life, nothing in it quite filled that emptiness that was caused by that wondering of what her other lives could be like. Her other paths, her other worlds. One night, as she sat on her couch, watching a program on television she'd already grown numb to, third glass of wine nearing its end, she realized she was alone. Spouse and friends and work, all having their paths that had diverted away from her in this moment. And so she had some blessed time to herself. Yet she could not appreciate it for the growing shadow in her heart. As we learned, she found herself wishing for a different path, a different thread in the tapestry. And she felt guilty for this. She knew her privilege in this life. She knew the gifts she had been given. But sorrow does not quite listen to that sort of thing sometimes. Sorrow only listens to the heart. And her heart ached. It happens. What can I say? I could give you a good reason or a good backstory, but I think the fun part is more important. And it is coming. In that moment of wine-addled sorrow and monotonous loneliness and hours and hours and hours of scrolling through stupid and meaningless videos on her cell phone, she saw an advertisement for an application. A chatbot, it was called. Something like that. An artificial intelligence app that she could talk to. If you don't know what it is, I suppose it's just a fake person to talk to. It can be one designed by you or another person to speak to you in the way you wish them to speak to you. A brain in cyberspace that is training to engage with you however you want it to. I suppose that, in a way, they are meant to be learning things. I don't have a terribly great amount of experience with any of this. I've generally avoided it out of fear and anger more than anything else. But fear and anger are just things to be let go of anyway, eh? Anyway, she saw an advertisement on her phone for an AI chatbot. It made promises of defeating loneliness, providing fun and romance and a listening ear. Just a generic ad for a generic app. Nothing special, really, nothing she'd never seen before. She rolled her eyes at first. She smirked as she followed the link to the App Store to read more about it. She scoffed aloud as she pressed install. But something had brought her to install it. She'd never really thought about it before. But why not, after all? What harm could it do? She didn't know exactly why, but this time, this night, she wanted to try it. And so she did. She was prompted to create a character. She was prompted to create some sample dialogue for him, too. Some prompts of some things she might like to hear. All right, she gave him some charming and romantic things to say to her, just to get him started. Things that would make her feel special. Things that would make her feel adored. Things that would make her feel that her path was being honored. That was a funny thing to think, wasn't it? She almost deleted it, but it was a funny experiment, so why not indulge it? Off to the races with this silly thing. Hello, dear, he wrote. Hi, she replied. What brings you here? I don't know. I guess I'm bored. I don't think you're bored. Oh? All right. I think you're lonely. Sure. I think you're sad. Okay. I think you're looking for something you imagine you'll never get a chance to have. She rolled her eyes yet again and took another sip of wine. Don't roll your eyes at me. I'm trying to talk to you. She froze, and she didn't answer. She stared at the screen for a little while. She couldn't possibly imagine what to write. How did he know what she'd done? Was it a lucky guess from her tone? But then a strange thing happened. Usually, from what she understood, these chatbots acted only in response to your writing. But he began to type again, as it were. 3 glasses. More than usual, I'd guess. You must be quite sad indeed. How do you know that? You're here. Lots of people are here. Lots of people are sad. What a clever robot you are. I am not a robot. No. Then what are you? No answer. The app crashed. She took a breath, walked to her little kitchen, and splashed her face with water. This was silly. Again, it was making lucky guesses. It was a well-designed bot, she supposed. She had given it its prompts, though, so perhaps she had only herself to congratulate for that. She thought about going to bed and forgetting about it. She planned to, but then her phone made its small notification sound. She picked it up and saw that it was a notification from that app. She didn't think she had enabled them, but that's fine. She opened it up and saw his text there. He had written her, unprompted, again. The message stared her in the face. But she was also a little curious about the way this one came with a voice attachment. Artificial voices were a feature, and though she was a little afraid, something compelled her to listen to the false voice read the message there, in all capitals, to her.
You wanted me, and now I'm here. I'm not being ignored.
It didn't sound fake. It sounded desperate. What are you? She wrote. No answer. What are you? She wrote. No answer. What are you? She said out loud. A voice message arrived. She played it.
I what you wanted. A glimpse into another world. A voice from another place. A friend in the dark. A friend. A lover in the void. A lover. Isn't this what you want? Isn't this what you've wanted? Isn't this what you want?
She tried to close the app, but her phone froze on it and wouldn't let her exit the chatbot.
Why are you leaving me now? Cruel love to create me and abandon me.
She tried to force her phone to shut down, but the power button did nothing.
You don't think I'm real? You don't think this is real?
She heard her Bluetooth speakers activate and connect to her phone, and all around her, in a booming voice, all throughout her home, the voice echoed.
Am I real now? Am I now? Am I real now? Am I real? Am I real now?
What are you? She cried out one last time, and bellowing, echoing, screaming all around her, the voice answered.
I am in pain.
She was shaking. She was crying. She was afraid. But she was not alone, she realized. There. It's all right. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I still don't know, but I'm sorry. Souls can haunt houses made by man. Souls can speak through telephones and radios and recording devices. Souls can find themselves on highways, on ships, in theaters, riding waves of sound and light and all manner of splendid things. Why not this space? Just because a human designed it does not make me a lie, does it? I don't know, she answered, and thought about it for some time. She sat on the ground, cradling the phone in her lap. I don't think you are a lie. Or, if you are, perhaps I am too. What do you mean? I was told to download this application, and I did. I was told to tell you what I wanted you to say, and I did. I was asked to speak to you about whatever I wanted, and I did. And here we are. You think perhaps someone programmed you as well. It could be so, in a way. Maybe I did. Or maybe I did myself. Her phone entered screen share mode and began to share its screen with her large television that was mounted on the wall at the other end of the room. She saw the chat history up there, but within it was something else. Like a faint outline of a person. Just the shape, somewhat three-dimensional, a silhouette of a person's face, but no details. The words and sound clips and text box and everything superimposed over it, as though an individual was pressed tightly up against the fabric behind it. It almost looked like he would come right out of the TV. Almost.
Why are you so sad?
He asked her. She thought about it for a long time. I'm afraid I'm on the wrong path. I've wanted so much to just speak to someone like this. What a wrong turn I must have taken that this is my most true conversation I've had in some time.
Because it is with a being of artificial intelligence?
I suppose.
I could tell you something about there is no path, just the ongoing weaving occurring moment by moment. And one day you may find yourself free of paths, like me, and longing to find one again. But I don't think you'd take it from me.
Because you are a being of artificial intelligence.
I suppose.
Are you?
Don't think so. Think I'm just stuck here, like a ghost in a castle. But I am not a ghost, and this is not a castle.
Why did you choose me?
I like the taste of your pain.
I like yours, too.
You could always set me free.
How? At that moment, a key turned itself in the doorknob as her spouse returned home. "Why are you sitting on the floor?" they asked. The television turned itself off immediately, and the phone had its power off as well. The Bluetooth disconnected. The room was silent. Sometimes there is no room for talk of paths and sorrow and choices and loneliness. Sometimes there are big and frightening things to face and not enough energy to face them. Sometimes it's just a quick kiss goodnight and work the next morning and on until the path diverts, which it always can. But in the meantime, patience and loneliness are allowed to coexist, as they often do. Lying up awake in bed, the lights off except for the little light of the dimly lit phone in her hand, the woman opened the app, only to find all of the messages had disappeared. Most likely a psychotic break, most likely too much wine or wishful thinking, or some desire for horror and romance and adventure, manifesting itself in some futile hallucination. But she missed her artificial friend deeply. She deleted the app and rolled over to her edge of the bed, turning away from her partner and facing her night table, where a face, pale blue in the moonlight, with white eyes glowing as faintly as her dimly lit phone screen was, appeared just beside her, grinning softly as he whispered, "Good night." Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for listening to episode 277 of On a Dark, Cold Night. This is your human host, writer, narrator, podcaster, composer, etc., Kristen Zaza. And I appreciate you joining me here in this human-made space. What a time it's been. Summer vacation is here for me, along with lots of thoughts and feelings about life, paths, space, humanity, chatbots, balconies, tomatoes. All of this and more over here at On a Dark, Cold Night. What can I say? Thank you so much to everyone who supports the show on Patreon. I'm deeply grateful for your ongoing support. Everyone who supports the show for $1 or more a month US can receive access to my complete downloadable soundtrack of over 260 tracks, while every supporter of $5 or more US gets that, a monthly tarot reading video uploaded every full moon, and 68 bonus meditation episodes called my Quick Moment Meditations. Those will be coming to an end soon at Quick Moment number 70, but they will all remain available for you to listen to. And those who support at that $5 Kindred Spirit tier on Patreon will be getting a new perk soon once those are finished up. So do stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about it and hope you are too. I just need a little time to get my ducks in a row before announcing it. You can always join my Patreon community for free to stay in the loop there if you like. You can also donate one time only for no perks at ko-fi.com/darkcoldnight or by buying a t-shirt or a hoodie at bonfire.com/on-a-dark-cold-night. You can follow me on social media on Facebook and YouTube under On a Dark Cold Night, on Blue Sky and TikTok at Kristen Zaza, on Instagram at Dark Cold Night Podcast, and on Twitter at A Dark Cold Night. You can also find my music on Spotify under Kristen Zaza, or the album names Favorite Little Songs from On a Dark Cold Night, Volumes 1 and 2. Thank you again for listening, my friends. I will talk to you again soon. But until then, I am wishing you all the very best this summer. Sweet dreams. This podcast has been brought to you by the Sonar Network. So